Okay. Well, can we confirm that, Roshan? We just heard that it's not true that the SPLM actually boycotted the elections. From where you are in Khartoum, is that what you're hearing?
Well, I think it's a partial boycott, isn't it? They're still running in the south, and they boycotted most of the north, but there are certain areas, even in the north, where they're still standing. So it's a partial boycott. They've withdrawn their presidential candidate, but not all of their candidates.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Vincent, I mean, that doesn't all go well, does it?
I have a very big problem when we try to sometimes, we know the truth, and we say, that's not the truth. Because we all know that the SPLM boycotted elections in the north. Right, they took, you know, they have participated in the south. It's important for them to have governance going on in the south. Mm-hmm. But we can't say they didn't boycott in the north. Now, where I'm saying you've got to listen to voices of dissent. SPLA has certain concerns, and those concerns are supposed to be linked to how the referendum will be carried out. We all know that the government of Sudan will have to organize that referendum. Mm-hmm. And if they think that there was a problem organizing these elections, enough for them to boycott their participation in the north, then it means there will be problems with the referendum. And that's why one is saying that President al-Bashir, rather than keep saying, well, they didn't boycott, everything is fine, it's wonderful, needs to know there is a problem in that country. Sit down with all these different groups and think about the best way of nurturing this democratic tradition. It's very good that at least for once we're seeing, you know, a bit of enthusiasm from the government to hold elections in a multi-party type of dispensation. But I don't call this multi-party dispensation. Okay, well, I mean, talking about enthusiasm, the enthusiasm hasn't only been from the government, Mr. AlMubarak. Outside forces, the UN, Ban Ki-moon, Jimmy Carter was in the country. There seems to be a lot of outside interest and seeming goodwill for this to work. Is there reason to be suspicious of the goodwill, or is it as good as it looks?
Well, the goodwill is there, but the bad faith is also there. There are many spoilers who would like instability in Sudan. Mm-hmm. Some of them are internal, some of them are external. For example, there are organizations which are the ugly face of neocolonialism.
Like whom?
Like the International Crisis Group, for example, like Enough, the Enough Project of John Prendergast and the others. So these are they were against the election, they were against the Darfur peace agreement, against the elections now, and they have said the elections should not go ahead. But there are others, of course, who have also embraced the elections. On the 31st of March, there was a common statement by the United States, Norway, and the UK, which did not call for postponement, did not call for cancelling the elections or anything of the like. There are internal forces, for example, in the SPLA, there is internal struggle. In the north, what Dr. Magombe was referring to was the Secretary General and some people around him in the northern sector of the SPLM were for boycott.
Right.
But
well, we have to end the discussion there. I mean, there was also concern about outside interests which are interested in sabotaging the process. But I'm afraid that's all the time we have. It never feels enough. That's all the time we have. We'd like to know what you think, as usual. Continue to email africa@presstv.co.uk. And now it's time for our usual quick look at other stories from the continent.
Reports have suggested that the outcome of Sudan's elections could be determined by women voters. Despite extreme logistical and organizational challenges facing the Sudanese elections, the women of Sudan appear to be more determined to have their voices heard in these landmark elections. Tombs of Buganda kings in Uganda will be rebuilt after fire destroyed the country's only World Heritage List site. The Ugandan government has secured UNESCO assistance for the works. Politicians in Borno State in northeastern Nigeria are debating a bill aimed at curbing religious extremism. The Islamic preaching bill would outlaw preaching likely to cause a breach of the peace. The legislation was proposed after an Islamic sect was blamed for sectarian violence in northern Nigeria last year, in which hundreds of people died.
And I'm afraid that's it for today. Thanks to all of you who continue to send emails and comments to us. africa@presstv.co.uk or text +44 7800 8086. Don't forget, messages will be charged at your local operator rates. A big thank to today's guests. They were Vincent Magombe, Dr. Khalid AlMubarak, and in Khartoum in Sudan, we had Press TV reporter Roshan Mohammed Salih. Thank you for watching. Join me, Vuyiswa, and the Africa Today team next week when we'll be discussing if racial tensions will undermine South Africa's hard-won democracy.